Hi everybody, I'm Stephan and thank you for tuning in. Today we're going to talk about character design. Now, I've been trying to keep these videos concise and short, 10 minutes or so, but drawing takes a long time, so I've been struggling with that. So I thought perhaps if I do a little bit of a time lapse just to speed things up and do commentary as I draw. Now we're going to design the character of Fox and concentrate more on his face than his body, but I wanted to kind of get an idea of how tall he would be. And in character design we measure the length of a character in terms of heads. So Fox is going to be about 5.5 heads tall. And all that I'm using are basic shapes like squares and triangles and circles to construct the character. In this case, his shoulders, figuring, is about 3 heads wide, and for the body, I'm just using triangles. Fox's personality is very sharp. He's a detective, and he can come across as slightly ill-tempered, and triangles are a great visual cue for communicating that. So even though we're going to concentrate mainly on the face, I just want to have some notes for myself in terms of his proportions. And you'll see I'm just writing down my note here. He's mainly constructed of squares and triangles. And there again, what I did there was I realized that his torso needed a square in the middle just to fill out his torso section, just to give him that lanky look. And now we're going to move on to the face, and I'm just going to use the exact same construction, the three squares, and just making a note there that the torso is going to be a triangle. And of course, from the front view, he doesn't have much of a neck, and I'm just blocking out more or less the proportions that I think that he should have, and blocking out the cranium. And he's got these big ears, which are circles, obviously, and his signature, and one should always think about something that's a signature of the character to make him easily recognizable, and that's a triangle at the top of his head for his hair, and the 2 triangles at the side of his head that forms his silhouette, in conjunction with the 2 circles that's his ears. So I'm just making marks where I think his eyes should be, and I'm just gonna color in red for triangles. I'm going to use blue for anything that's kind of filling in, or circles, and we're going to use green for mapping out any squares. So here I'm just blocking for myself the musculature that's underneath him. Always pay attention to your anatomy. Even though this is a very stylized character, it should feel like they can actually exist in a real world, that there are muscles actually moving the character around. So for the center of his face, I'm using this triangle to separate the eyes, and then blocking his nose out with another square. I have the basic idea of what this character should look like, and he's got a mustache, and his mustache is constructed of 2 squares and 2 triangles. So even though it looks like teeth right now, It's just to have the construction for animation, and this is slightly different from designing a character for live action film or even 3D animation. When constructing a character for hand-drawn animation, you really want to break it down into the simplest shapes: squares, triangles, and spheres. Spheres. To be able to control the volume over time, because you're not really drawing in the detail as you animate. You're actually just animating those shapes and then filling out the details later on. It makes it so much easier. And it gives, if you're working in a team, it gives the cleanup artists and everybody else, it gives them a clear indication of exactly what you're doing, and which lines are important and which lines are just construction or kind of beautification. So that's the front view. Let's shrink that down. Now we have to use those same shapes and construct the profile. Now I know in the front view I used a square, but it's generally a bad idea to draw your character from squares. Start with a cranium, as I'm doing here. Start with a cranium, which is just the circle, and I'm blocking out that triangular shape of his jaw. And now I'm looking at the front view, and I'm trying to copy the shapes that I used in the front view, and trying to see how it looks like from the side. And very quickly I'm realizing that I'm gonna have to change that square to make his nose slightly longer, and that's fine in 2D animation, where the front and the side differs slightly. I mean, it's not as if it's a 3D character that needs to look the same in a turntable or anything like that. It can change. What I really like is that squared off jaw, even though it's a triangle, and I always like to cut off that bottom side of the chin, and from a 3/4 view we'll just indicate like that roundness that goes off, and it kind of gets sliced off. So I'm just testing there what it may look like, so that it's rounded from the front, but from the side it's more flattened out. And again, just using a sphere for the ears, trying to get the proportions the same, and I'm just drawing a rough brow ridge. And for my eyebrows, I have this generic eyebrow that just follows the shape of the curvature of the brow, and even the eyes from the side are triangles. But what's important is those baggies under the eyes that are triangles, and that smile line that goes from the side of the nose to the corner of the mouth forms a triangle. And from the side of obviously we'll start seeing the neck, and that's is really a cylinder, but when looking at it as a flat image, that could be a square. Now again, I have to use that triangular shape of his signature hair, so I'm drawing that in, and I'm trying to figure out how those other two triangles are gonna fit in to this side. So I'm using a square-like shape to kind of get his sideburns in, and then that triangle shape fits. And again, I'm just using a sphere to round off the cranium, and I'm just indicating there that that is rounded off. The red for the triangles, and using a bit of the green and the blue, just mixing them together to show that it's rounded off, but it's actually a square. And always thinking about the planes of the face and just making some indications for myself there. And let's shrink that down. Now, I went ahead and I already sketched, just to save on time, I already sketched these two out, and you'll see that in a second. There we go, and I just made nice sketches of the front and the side, just adding, but it's exactly the same proportions. So what we're going to do now is to do a 3/4 view using those same shapes, and see if we can control the character and draw the character from any angle that we wish. So I always start with the cranium and drawing in the eye line. Start with that triangular shape for his jaw, building out the back of his cranium, the cylinder for his neck, and the triangle for his torso. Those big rounded ears, which are spheres, and his signature triangular hair that parts. And I'm just indicating that that triangle at the other side of the head is also there. And this is something that I sometimes do. I just use these eraser at like a 50% opacity, and I just erase it out, kind of like you would do on paper, just to lighten it up, so I can draw over top of it. And just indicating the brow ridge. And I'm always thinking about the planes of the face. If you get the planes of the face right, you can never go wrong. You can see how the eyebrows actually follow the planes of the face, and that makes the eyebrows so much easier to draw, because the eyes are kind of sunken in, and I always like to have that indication of where the brow at the top is, because it's nice and fleshy. So I've created that triangular shape between the eyebrows, and now I'm just adding that cylinder shape for the nose, and just adding the details. And I know that that's going to be a triangle, that smile line is going to be a triangle, and I draw the lower lid, and just finishing it off with that triangular shape that is those bags under the eyes. Now, it doesn't necessarily have to be a perfect triangle. You can stylize it a little bit, round it off a little bit, and make it nice and neat. But it's the basic shape that's important. So I always like to just indicate with some shadow under the eyes, just to show that the eyes are sunken in. And in animation, usually we'll actually draw in those shadow lines under the eyes, just to show that they are sunken in. And that's something I forgot, that fleshiness of the smile line. I forgot that in the side profile, so I just added that in. So now for the mustache, I'm thinking about the two squares and the triangle that form the mustache, and his lips are kind of hidden away. It's just there. And here you'll see how I round off and slice off, I square off the jaw at the same time. So it's those double lines that I want to get in there. And I'm just indicating where his collarbone would be. And his ears are pretty much just oblong spheres. Just adding a little bit of detail there. And again, just some shadow to indicate the shape and the depth of the nose. And even though it's that signature swish of his hair is a triangle, I'm not afraid to round that off and make it pretty. It's the basic shape that counts. That's the thing that's going to make him recognizable. So again, I'm thinking of that triangle, looking at the side, and rounding off the corners just slightly, not keeping it as sharp as our construction lines. And adding some shadow just to show that particular piece of the hair kind of stands out. Now eventually, in animation, we might not have the back of the hair that scruffy. It's going to be hard to control over time. So there we have our construction, and now we can try to see if we can put some personality into him and try to draw him from different perspectives, different angles. So as you can see, my construction, the cranium, the triangle for the jaw, and his signature shapes for the hair and the ears, because those are the things that's going to make him recognizable. My eyebrows, mostly for all my characters, are kind of generic. I have these just kind of like that, I don't know how you describe that shape, but most of my characters have that shape of eyebrow. I don't really pay too much attention to the eyebrows. But you can see that I'm constantly using that triangle to identify the bags under the eyes. All those construction cues need to be communicated through to this character, because that's what's gonna make the character recognizable. Now, if your character is really cartoony, you do it in an overall shape, you know, whether the character is an overall sphere, as is the case with Rotund, or like a very lanky, like Gangly or GJ. It all depends on how cartoony you want to get. But this is slightly more realistic. It's stylized, but realistic. And we just want to play around with the internal shapes rather than working with the external shapes of the character. So here we're doing a happy expression. He's smiling. Something I think that would happen very rarely, but he might need to smile every now and then. But if you really look, you can see those triangles, and you can see those very, very basic shapes that's used in the construction of this character. And that's what makes it so easy to draw. And I'm really sorry for the time lapse, but I want to keep the videos relatively short. It would be cool in the future if you guys can draw along, and you'll find that drawing these characters are really, really easy because they're constructed from such basic shapes. It's nothing complex. In the end, it looks very complex because I'm adding a lot of detail and just making it look nice. So let's try an expression that's slightly more surprised yet revolted. He maybe sees something that's not as appealing, and he's a little shocked. See again those triangles, those very basic shapes that we use to communicate who this character is. And each character has his or her own signature shapes that we use. And even though it's three basic shapes: spheres, triangles, and circle, circles, triangles, and squares. The combination of those shapes make out the character. And as you warm up your hand, it just comes naturally when you just follow those, kind of like that recipe. That's what character design is all about. Coming up with a recipe that works. So I'm skewing up his mustache just to show that he's revolted a little bit, and for the first time we actually see the lower lip a little bit. Gives us an idea of what we can do. But as always, when he's in front view, we don't see much of his neck. I suppose he's kind of like hunched over. And rounding out that triangle, his signature swoop of the hair, and working out that triangle at the side of the head so he doesn't look all weird. I'm gonna fold that out in a second. There we go. And yeah, always using that fleshy part. Never forget that fleshy part above the eyebrows. We all have that. That's why you have these furrow lines when you raise your eyebrows. Your skin folds. It's because your eyebrows are really fleshy. And just adding some shadows, just for the heck of it, and just to give the idea of depth in the character. And I'm working in Krita or Krita, and I really love the brushes they have, especially the pencil brushes. It feels so natural. It really feels like real pencil, drawing with real pencil and paper. It's really awesome, and the software is free and you can download it. I really invite you to do that. So now let's do like an angry expression, like he's scolding Noble for some reason, because yeah, he's sharp with his tongue. So let's raise that eyebrow up. Always breaking the symmetry. Then that's another thing, that when you construct your character from these basic shapes, it's so easy to fall into evenness, and evenness is the kiss of death. You never want to be even. You always want to break up the evenness in your character. So as you see here in this expression, it's I'm actually twisting that triangle of his jaw, and you know, unbalancing the eyebrows and unbalancing the mustache, so that you're never even in your characters. But I'm still using the same construction that we designed at the beginning, and that allows us to animate him over time. So again, I'm rounding out that jawline, and that is actually in animation. I think that's going to be like a double line, the squared off and the round to mix together. But once you have these basic shapes down, it's so easy to just draw the character. And you can really draw him from any angle, because you just think about those basic construction shapes. There we have. He looks really angry. just adding some shadows. And there we go. Let's shrink that down, and I've cleaned up the drawings and gave it some color. It's just a basic color scheme, not necessarily what we're going to use in animation, but just to give a general idea of what Fox looks like. Yeah, that's the model sheet. And this model sheet, along with the construction sheet, those two are very important, and few people know that you need both in order to animate a character. It's not just the model sheet. The model sheet is a good indication of all the details and everything that goes into the character, but the construction sheet is equally important, because as you animate, even if you're an in-betweener, you need to know what this character is, how this character is constructed, and what basic shapes make out this character. We as artists hide away those constructions in order to make it look like we're drawing all these complex details out of our heads, but it's really not. We're drawing circles, squares, and triangles. So I really hope that this this really quick and brief introduction to character design is informative to you, and I hope you continue watching, and I hope you enjoy the progress of making this animated series called Dust. So if you haven't already, please like and subscribe to our channel. It really helps us out in making this this animation series possible. The more people we gather together in helping us make this a reality, the better it would be for the show. And as always, leave your comments. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, any videos that you'd like us to make, please feel free to do so. So until next time, bye bye.